I think it's very fair, everything you said in terms of your concerns, but they've been operating this Ying mine, which is their only material asset or operating asset, and for 17 or 18 years have pulled 500 million US free cash out of it, regularly pull cash out of China with a 10% withholding tax, and have a mine life of at least 15 to 20 years at the bit as a low cost silver mine. So while there is always risk associated to what you're saying, I think the track record speaks for itself. They have created very strong relationships in China. And I think that the company is going to continue to produce successfully there for a very long period of time.
Christian, how are you?
I'm starting to get out of the groggy phase after a very intense end of last week. I didn't sleep Thursday night. I flew the red eye back home to see my family on Friday. So 2 days straight of no sleep, and that catches up to you.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. Well, I found out about all this on Twitter, I believe, at first off of your Twitter feed, and then just doing a quick Google search on press releases. Let's start from the top. You guys just were involved in a transaction. If you would, let's start from the beginning. How did this happen, and walk me through that?
Sure. So it shouldn't have been a surprise to most investors following Adventus. We closed the Luminex transaction end of January. We received key permits, and the next step for us was to source the final capital in so we could start construction as soon as possible. And we were targeting a transaction in Q2 and ideally in May. So I guess we beat that timeline by a week. We talked about looking at all options for the company, with the likely route or smartest route being M&A, and the worst and most dilutive to our shareholders being a public markets financing. But during this intervening period, we had precious metals prices take off, which really helped the process and helped potential suitors come with attractive proposals. But the reality is our share price did extremely well over the last few months, and many potential acquirers couldn't keep up in terms of their share price performance. And so that, and in the end, limited, who could really pay up for the business. But we were looking for ideally a producer, precious metals producer, because they can pay more than base metal producers. One that had a very strong balance sheet that covered all of our capital needs for at least El Domo. One that hopefully had better liquidity, could bring construction or operating teams, maybe even a dividend. And of course, one that could pay a premium. And Silvercorp fits all of those criteria. So we delivered what we said we would do. And our financial advisor, Cormark Securities, helped us through this 3-month process. They told me we had the most robust process they've ever seen in terms of a full market pass, everyone being contacted, dozens of CAs signed, lots of site visits. And so, of course, we chose the proposal that was the best. So for anybody wondering, was this the best proposal, or thinking, why didn't we get 55 cents, 60 cents, 65? This was the best offer. And we started at 22 cents Canadian at the beginning of March as our share price. And we got an offer at the end of April at 50 cents Canadian. So if someone's looking at, well, I only got a 10% premium once the stock settled on Friday, or I think it was actually a little bit less than that, take it from where we were at the beginning of March. So in the end, it was a very clear analysis from our financial advisors. You have a large equity financing overhang. We don't even know if the public markets has that interest to fill that equity requirement. And it's going to be done at a very significant discount to where you're trading. Or you can take a premium offer from a very liquid company that has 200 million US of cash in their balance sheet and has many interesting attributes, which we can talk about later. which is the best one for our shareholders, with the main view of what is the best way or most likely way for us to get back to $1 a shared Canadian for Adventus. That's what we're solving for. That's where a lot of our shareholders' average ownership price. What can we get back there? And it was a very easy analysis that taking the Silvercorp route was the best way to have a chance to do that.
Got it. Okay. So, I am an investor. I should say I was an investor. And I was quite happy with this deal. But I did have some concerns that I'd like you to address. The first, well, let us say what I first saw in Adventist and you, I really liked the properties. And I liked the vision of building a large producing copper mine, if you would. That was very attractive to me. What was also very attractive to me was the share price was, I thought myself, was exceptionally cheap. And then I thought you were a high takeover candidate and all those things, if you would, that I just said happened or happening, if you would. With this specific company, it's their Chinese properties that is a concern of mine, if you would. And potentially masking it as a Chinese company. Not that I'm agnostic as a stockholder with that regard, but I am, I guess, concerned if, let's say, a Chinese or a company that has large exposure to China, if you could just address that, if you would, because there's not much diversification, it seems like, with them now.
Sure. First off, Silvercorp is a Canadian company. The majority of their shareholders are in North America. There's no Chinese government involvement, no SOE involvement. And most importantly, when it comes from the perspective of governmental review, the majority of the board members are Canadian citizens and Canadian residents. So there is no government review. They happen to be an investor in China. I think it's very fair, everything you said in terms of your concerns, but they've been operating this Ying mine, which is their only material asset or operating asset, and for 17 or 18 years have pulled 500 million US free cash out of it, regularly pull cash out of China with a 10% withholding tax, and have a mine life of at least 15 to 20 years at it as a low cost silver mine. So while there is always risk associated to what you're saying, I think the track record speaks for itself. They have created very strong relationships in China. And I think that the company is going to continue to produce successfully there for a very long period of time. Now, it's not the only asset of the company. There's two other mines in China, but I would say there's non-core. But can't overlook 315 million US of cash equivalents. 200 million of that is in cash, which the majority is going to go into Ecuador to advance our project. But they also have an equities portfolio, the largest component, which is New Pacific Metals, which is a gold silver developer in Bolivia with 3 projects, 2 of them arguably world-class, and they have key studies coming out later this year. They're trying to diversify to build a significant mining company around the world. Interestingly, they tried to buy Guyana Goldfields a few years ago and got stepped on by a mainland China SOE. They tried to buy OreCorp, a Tanzanian gold developer, last year and got stepped on by Perseus. So obviously they're very motivated to get a transaction done, diversify out of China. But specifically on the China side of things, I think any concerns are overblown. Where they operate, major American companies have their hub in China. So Home Depot, Walmart, Tesla, they've invested tens of billions of dollars there in manufacturing. That really insulates some of this risk that people are talking about. If there becomes a scorched earth kind of scenario between America and China, all of us are going to be hit in a much more serious way than Silvercorp.
Right. So if you could talk about the projects then that well, I should say that will be developed and that investors will have exposure to, if you would, and why that's a good thing for investors.
Well, a big part of this is solving the funding gap, as I mentioned. That's from a valuation perspective. They are fully committed to building El Domo as quickly as possible. There is
Right.
a big asterisk on that, though, in a good way, and that is they're going to source most of the equipment for the project from China. They're not going to change the designs much because we have permits based on the existing design. But through sourcing of Chinese equipment, we
Lost
believe they'll
sales.
save substantially. I don't know what the number is, but I'm going to put up $50 million. And
Wow.
operating costs are going to be lower. And the reason I say that is at Ying, they're doing a 1,500 ton per day flotation mill expansion right now. And their cost is $7.5 million US to build that. And we have a greenfields 1,850 ton per day mill, flotation mill. And in our numbers, it's 60 million US. So expect substantial savings there. Also, we expect them to buy their own mining fleet rather than contract mining from Peru. The trucks are much cheaper. Their own fleet is going to drop operating costs and ASIC substantially. So there's some real benefits for the pro forma shareholder base. But it's not only El Domo. We have a massive asset base in Ecuador. We inherited this Condor gold silver project as part of the Luminex transaction. And that's 8 million ounces of gold equivalent. They really like that project. And if it was Adventus standalone, we would only be able to advance El Domo into construction during the next few years. But Silvercorp, with its balance sheet, is going to be able to advance both. And that, I think, is going to be very accretive for shareholders. If Silvercorp is the cheapest major silver producer in its peer group, it trades around 0.6 times NAV. So silver takes off. Our shareholders are going to do very well. And that's regardless of our asset. But now they've fully financed with the cash in their balance sheet, the construction of the next copper mine in the world, and are going to be driving the construction of Condor soon thereafter. I see significant re-rating on all those aspects. And that $200 million of cash that was sitting in the balance sheet was doing nothing for them. Now that's driving 60% plus IRR after-tax investment on El Domo. And I think we'll vault this company into a new market cap range, get additional GDXJ investment, get re-entered into the SLIJ, and other interesting aspects that the company hasn't talked about, but will outline later this year. So I really think we'll get back to $1 a share equivalent Adventus in short order.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And I guess, again, I can't stress enough what I was very interested in that is I did not want my shares to be diluted. And then this accomplishes that, where you're getting a huge influx of cash, or I should say, the company's getting a huge influx of cash. And me as a retail investor is not being, I mean, it doesn't seem like there's going to be any harm. It just seems like there's mostly just significant upside. So
Yep.
let me ask you this is, so obviously the board, I'm saying this obviously because I'm making some assumptions. Everything was approved, but my question really is what was the process? And I'm assuming the Ecuadorian government had to sign off on all of this.
No, there's no Ecuadorian government sign off.
Wasn't
No, there's no requirement for it.
right?
The
I thought
Ecuadorian
with respect to the Ecuadorian government.
Helped facilitate all the site visits we had with the various groups. The key ministers met with Silvercorp, gave a lot of comfort to Silvercorp. They said, we're open for business.
That's great.
The Canadian government, there's no Investment Canada Act review because of the fact that over 2/3 of the board members of Silvercorp are Canadian.
Okay.
So we don't expect that to be any kind of gating item to get this done. There's no shareholder vote from a Silvercorp perspective. There's a shareholder vote from an Adventist perspective. As part of this transaction, Ross Speedy, Wheaton Precious Metals, and insiders locked up for 23% of the stock. We have the support from other major investors as well, including Altius. And so I think the shareholder vote is a shoe-in, subject to, of course, a superior proposal, which is always possible. Our board unanimously approved the transaction. We had fairness opinions from Cornmark Securities and Raymond James. And Salazar Resources signed a support agreement for the transaction as well.
So it sounds like everybody is really on board then. That's fantastic.
Well, I mean, the public market doesn't know the due process that we ran, but of course we want to take the best offer on the table, which allows us to re-rate the most. And we have a sophisticated board, and those shareholders are sophisticated. They were wall crossed as well. So we that's why we chose this.
Yep. Okay, excellent. So let me ask you this: going down that, what's going to happen to the management team, even to somebody such like yourself? What's the process then, and all the people on the ground?
Yeah, Silvercorp is a commitment to the Ecuadorian team that we built and their management to stay there and build that business up. The Canadian management team in Toronto, including myself, will be severed. There's no board members from Adventus that are continuing on to Silvercorp. So it is a takeover. I've seen a bunch of messages on Twitter there about this is enriching management. After 7 years of doing this and after tax, my payout is about $1.7 to $1.8 million Canadian. Can't even buy a house in downtown Toronto for that. This is not about enriching myself. It's about making sure shareholders have the best opportunity to get back to $1 a share and to be fully financed and to build here El Domo and Condor. It's not about myself. It's about best interest of all stakeholders. And a big part of it is Ecuadorians and our employees. Ecuador is going to win the most out of this transaction because they want to advance multiple assets in tandem.
Got it. Well, any final thoughts that you'd have, Christian? And I want to thank you for your candor, and also as a shareholder, just really I was surprised and somewhat surprised, but not surprised of a takeover. I was expecting that, but I guess you're always surprised when it all happens, if you would. But I'm grateful, and I really look forward to the future. But any final thoughts that you want us to give?
Well, ultimately, this transaction was a result of the market. We had very good success in the first 4 or 5 years of this company in raising capital at a reasonable equity cost to capital, dollar plus or minus per share in all of our raises. And then we collapsed post the first year of COVID and then the Russia-Ukraine war. Our institutions left. I talked about the liquidity crisis, go all the way down to 22 cents a share. And it ultimately always comes down to NAV per share, in my view.
Mm-hmm.
And we had to solve for that. If we were trading at $1 a share right now, we would not be doing this transaction. So it's Mr. Market. And then there was the unfortunate roller coaster ride of politics in Ecuador and permitting that resulted in us taking much longer to get our final permits. So am I sad that we're not having the opportunity to build El Domo and to build that significant company we talked about? Yes. But I sleep well at night because this mine is going to get built. And I'm going to continue to be a shareholder of Silvercorp going forward. And I think they will do a very good job for us. And personally, not retiring off of this, you'll see me in a different position sometime in Q4. I don't know what that is. I'm excited to start something new. And I'm excited to take all the learnings I had and all the relationships that I made over the last few years and make the next one a huge success.
Well, thank you so much, Christian. Thank you for your time. And I am very grateful for your time today, but also getting to know you over the last several months and to be a shareholder.
Thank you.